The betrayal didn't come from a stranger or some rival. It came from the one person who was supposed to have my back. My own mother tried to steal my home, the house my grandmother left me, and sell it out from under me for $740,000. She really thought I wouldn't find out until the money was in her account, and my key suddenly stopped working. She figured I was too shattered by grief to fight back. Well, she was wrong. This isn't just a story about a house. It's about the moment I realized that blood isn't always thicker than water, and how I had to go to war with my own family to get back the only thing I had left of the person I loved most. She had a plan to get rich. I had a plan to get justice, and I was about to freeze every single dollar of her dirty deal. My grandmother, Eleanor, was my rock. While my parents were always wrapped up in their own drama, their careers, and, let's be honest, my younger sister, Grandma's house was my safe space. It was this charming, rambling two-story Victorian with a big wraparound porch and a garden full of roses that smelled like heaven on a summer night. It wasn't just a building. It was where I learned to bake, where I ran after my first heartbreak, where Eleanor taught me that my voice actually mattered. She had this quiet strength about her, and she saw the things in me that my own parents just didn't. "This house has a strong heart, just like you," she'd tell me, resting her hand on the worn oak banister. "One day, it'll be yours to look after." It was a promise she made over years of tea and late-night talks. I never doubted her for a second. When she passed, the silence she left was just deafening. The whole world felt gray. The only little piece of light was her final gift to me. At the will reading, her lawyer read the words I was expecting but still desperately needed to hear. The house, everything in it, was left to me. It was her last, loving way of saying, "I see you. I'll always take care of you." My mother sat next to me, patting my hand with this totally fake sympathy. "Oh, honey, that's wonderful," she said, her voice dripping with a sweetness that just felt off. "But it's a huge responsibility. All that upkeep, property taxes. You're so young." My father, who was basically her echo, just nodded along. My sister Eve looked genuinely ticked off, like Grandma had personally snubbed her. I was in such a fog of grief that I didn't see the red flags. I didn't notice the flicker of pure resentment in my mother's eyes, or the way she and my dad shared a look when they thought I wasn't looking. Our relationship was always functional, I guess, but never warm. I was the quiet, independent kid. Eve was the one who always needed and got their attention. I never imagined my mother was capable of doing something truly awful to me. I foolishly believed we were still family, so when she offered to help with the estate, I was grateful. "Probate is so complicated, darling," she cooed, taking the thick folder of documents right out of my numb hands. "Let me handle the boring legal stuff. You just focus on grieving." It felt like a kind gesture, like she was trying to help. I handed her my trust on a silver platter, and she took it with a smile that never reached her eyes. She promised to keep me updated, to handle the property transfer, to get the utilities switched to my name. I just retreated into my sadness, believing the last piece of my grandmother was safe with her. I had no idea she wasn't protecting my inheritance. She was planning to steal it. The first few months were a blur of firsts without Grandma. Her birthday, the first spring rain when I couldn't call her to talk about her roses. During all this, my mother's updates were vague. "These things take time. The courts are so backed up. Don't you worry your pretty little head about it." The condescension was always there, but I was too lost to even bother calling her on it. The first real crack in her story showed up in my mailbox. It was an official letter from the county, addressed to current resident at Grandma's house, which I'd started forwarding to my apartment. It was a notice about a pending title transfer. I just figured it was part of the process my mom was handling, but something about the legal language just felt wrong. So, I called her. "Oh, that's just standard procedure," she said, her voice a little too light. "Paperwork, darling. It's endless. I'll take care of it." But my gut was screaming at me. A few days later, I decided to drive by the house. I just needed to feel close to Grandma. As I turned onto her street, my heart slammed into my throat. Right there, staked into her lawn, was a real estate sign, and under the agent's name, in big red letters, was a sign that made my world spin: "Sale pending." I pulled over, my hands shaking so badly I could barely put the car in park. It had to be a mistake, a horrible mistake. I fumbled for my phone, pulled up a real estate app, and typed in the address. And there it was, my home, my sanctuary, listed for $740,000. The photo gallery showed every room, my grandmother's furniture still there, her memory staged for strangers. The description was a punch to the gut. Motivated seller, priced for a quick sale. I couldn't breathe. I called my mother, my voice shaking with rage and disbelief. Why is there a for sale sign on Grandma's lawn? For a split second, there was dead silence. Then came the lie. What? Oh, honey, that must be for the house next door. You know how those agents are. Don't lie to me, I choked out, the words tasting like acid. I'm looking at the online listing right now. It's for sale. It's pending. For $740,000. What did you do? Her voice completely changed. The fake sympathy vanished, replaced by a cold, hard defensiveness. All right, Julia. I was going to tell you. I was just waiting for the right time. The right time? You mean when the money was in your bank account? When the new owners were throwing all of Grandma's things on the curb? Don't be so dramatic, she snapped. You can't afford that house. The taxes, the insurance, the repairs. It would have been a disaster for you. Your father and I decided this was for the best. We were going to give you some of the money, of course. Some of it. Of my own inheritance. The nerve was just staggering. This wasn't just about the money. It was the total betrayal, the complete dismissal of my grandmother's last wish, the violation of my trust. She had used my grief as a cover to commit a major crime. This was inheritance theft, planned and carried out by my own mother. The shock turned into resolve. The grief was still there, but now it had a new friend. Absolute fury. That night, I didn't sleep. I searched online for probate lawyers, inheritance lawyers, anyone who could help. The next morning, I was sitting in the office of a man named Mr. Davies, a sharp, no-nonsense attorney who specialized in exactly this kind of family betrayal. I told him everything, the will, my mother's evasiveness, the shock of seeing that sign. He listened, his face grim. This is a textbook case of inheritance theft and a breach of fiduciary duty, he said, and the clinical words were weirdly comforting. Your mother, acting as if she were the executor, had no legal right to list that property. That sale is fraudulent. He explained that any sale of inherited property without the heir's consent is illegal and can be thrown out. But to win, we needed more than the will. We needed a mountain of proof. He asked me to think. Did your grandmother ever tell anyone else her wishes? Are there letters, emails, anything that proves what she wanted? And then, it hit me. Two things. First, the letter. Tucked in the same envelope as the will, my grandmother had left me a handwritten letter. I'd read it once and put it away because it was too painful. I got it from my safe deposit box. Her familiar, elegant handwriting filled the page, not just with love, but with a warning. Be careful, Julia, she wrote. Some people see a house, but I am leaving you a home. Don't let anyone convince you it's a burden. It is a gift. It is yours and yours alone. Second, the recording. About a year before she passed, my grandmother was getting annoyed with my mother's constant suggestions about her money. One afternoon, she said to me, "Get your phone out, dear. I want to record something, just in case." On that recording, her voice is crystal clear. She states her name, the date, and says, "I am of sound mind and body, and I want to be perfectly clear. My house on Elm Street is to go to my granddaughter, Julia, upon my death. Not to be sold, not to be divided. It is for her." When I played it for Mr. Davies, a slow smile spread across his face. "This," he said, tapping my phone, "is our silver bullet. It destroys any argument that she was confused or not in her right mind. Your mother has nowhere to go with this." Our plan was set. Mr. Davies would start the legal process right away. My job was to stay quiet, to let my mother think she was getting away with it, right up to the moment we brought it all crashing down. This wasn't just about getting my house back anymore. It was about honoring my grandmother and exposing a betrayal so deep it nearly broke me. If you've ever felt like you were in the fight of your life, You might want to stick around, because this is where we stopped playing defense. You won't believe what happened when we took the fight straight to her. The next 2 weeks were torture. I had to ignore my mother's calls and texts, which got more and more frantic as the closing date for the sale got closer. She was getting nervous. Good. Meanwhile, Mr. Davies was moving silently and strategically. His first move was a legal document called a lease pendens. Mr. Davies explained it's Latin for suit pending. It gets filed with the county and basically tells the world that the property's title is in a legal fight. It's a huge red flag for any buyer or title company and brings any sale to a screeching halt. He filed it on a Tuesday. By Wednesday afternoon, my phone was blowing up. It was the buyer's real estate agent, and he was panicking. What is this lease pendens? The title company won't move forward. The deal is on hold. I just said, "You'll have to speak with my attorney," and gave him Mr. Davies's number. An hour later, my mother called. The mask was completely off. This wasn't the concerned mother. This was a cornered animal. "What did you do?" she shrieked. "You've ruined everything. The buyers are threatening to sue me. Do you have any idea the mess you've made?" I took a deep breath, gripping the phone so tight my knuckles turned white. "The mess I've made? You tried to sell my house, Mother. You committed fraud. Did you really think I'd just let you?" "I did it for this family," she screamed. "For your father's retirement. You are the most selfish, ungrateful child I know." It was so outrageously hypocritical, I almost laughed. "The house was never yours to sell," I said, my voice colder than I'd ever heard it. "Grandma gave it to me, and I'm taking it back. My lawyer will be in touch." Then I hung up. It felt like cutting off a limb, painful, but I had to do it to survive. The big showdown wasn't some dramatic courtroom scene. It was a sterile, tense meeting in a conference room at Mr. Davies's office. My mother, my father, and their totally stunned lawyer sat on one side of a ridiculously long table. I sat on the other, with Mr. Davies next to me. Her lawyer started off, trying to spin it as a family misunderstanding and how they were just acting in my best interests. He claimed I had verbally told my mother she could manage the property however she wanted. Mr. Davies let him finish, then calmly opened his briefcase. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. He just laid out our evidence, piece by damning piece. First, the notarized will. Clear as day. Second, he slid a copy of Grandma's handwritten letter across the table. I watched my mother's face twist as she read it. Then, Mr. Davies put my phone on the table. "And now, I'd like for you all to hear something." He hit play. My grandmother's strong, determined voice filled the room. "I want to be perfectly clear. My house on Elm Street is to go to my granddaughter Julia. Not to be sold, not to be divided. It is for her." My mother actually flinched. Her lawyer's face went white. My father just stared at the table, refusing to look at me. "As you can hear," Mr. Davies said smoothly, "the deceased's wishes were perfectly clear. Any attempt to sell this property directly violates those wishes." He then pulled out another file. "We also have records showing your client contacted a real estate agent 3 weeks before the will was even read. That's not managing an estate, that's premeditated theft." He then spelled out the legal trouble she was facing, civil lawsuits for fraud, and possible felony criminal charges. Her lawyer cleared his throat. "My clients are prepared to offer Julia a significant portion of the sale," he stammered. "The sale is not happening," Mr. Davies said flatly. "The deal is frozen, and it will be cancelled. The house belongs to my client. That part is not up for discussion. What is up for discussion is whether my client decides to press criminal charges for fraud." And that was it. The fight just drained out of them. There was no defense, only surrender. My mother stared at me from across the table, her eyes filled not with regret, but with pure, burning hatred. She hadn't lost a house, she had lost a payday, and I knew she would never forgive me for it. Within the hour, they signed a settlement. They would immediately pull the house off the market, give up the buyer's deposit to cover damages, and sign every document needed to put the title officially and only in my name. In return, I wouldn't press charges. It wasn't forgiveness, it was a clean break. I wanted my home, and I wanted them out of my life. Walking out of that law office was like climbing out of a storm cellar after a tornado. The danger was over, but the wreckage was everywhere. My relationship with my parents wasn't just broken, it was gone. My father, who just stood by and let it all happen, sent me one text. "Your mother is devastated. I hope you're happy." I didn't even reply. What could I say? They made their choice. A week later, I held the new keys in my hand. The lock my mother had changed was gone, replaced by one that only I had a key to. Walking through my own front door was surreal. It was mine. For the first time, I didn't feel like a guest. I felt like I was home. The emotional toll of it all was huge. There was this deep sadness that the family I thought I had was just a lie. The grief for my grandmother was now all tangled up with grieving for a mother who was still alive. Being betrayed by a parent leaves a special kind of scar. It's a constant reminder that the one person who should have been your biggest offender was willing to sell you out for cash. But along with the pain, there was a new feeling, strength. I had faced the worst kind of betrayal, and I had won. I protected my grandmother's legacy. I had found my voice, a voice that had been silenced for so long by my own family. The house is no longer just a house, it's a symbol of my own resilience. Every room holds memories of my grandmother, but now they're layered with new ones, memories of my fight, my victory. I learned some hard lessons in the worst way possible, that documents are power, that you have to fight for yourself because no one else will, and that sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is to walk away from the people who hurt you, no matter who they are. That $740,000 deal is long dead, just a ghost of my mother's greed. I live in my grandmother's house now, surrounded by her memory and the quiet strength she left for me. The legal fight is over, but the emotional healing will take a lot longer. I won back my home, but I lost a mother in the process, and I've started to realize that maybe I never really had one in the first place. This house was my inheritance, but the courage to fight for it, that was my grandmother's real gift. If this story hit home for you, I'd love to hear in the comments about a time you had to stand up for what was yours. Your stories are important. Thanks for listening.